But in 2014, Montgomery County established the Public Election Fund, and it's almost as though it kicked things off for us in all of the other jurisdictions. Howard County later became the first jurisdiction following the Citizens United decision that established a program following a charter amendment. Prince George's established a program. Baltimore City has since put a program in place. And more recently, this past November, Baltimore County voters approved a charter amendment. Just this past week, we finished working on recommendations for that program, and we expect a bill to be introduced soon. So, if we're looking at things in terms of timeline, at this point, by 2026, more than half of registered voters in the state will live in a publicly financed jurisdiction. It really is, because of the momentum that we've been able to build following Montgomery County and its first use of the program. And the other thing that I wanted to quickly highlight is that, we do have a statewide program as well. You'll see that just the other day, a gubernatorial candidate opted in, the Fair Campaign Financing Fund, which has been newly updated and funded, and which is the program that Governor Hogan used when first running for office. So again, it shows you that regardless of your political affiliation, these programs really are able to help you build a winning, or at least a competitive campaign. And, I won't go on for much longer, but I just wanted to make sure you all have a snapshot of the work happening here that has happened here in the county. The photos are a bit blurry. 2014, the photo cameras just weren't the same on the phone, but, you'll see, that people like Councilwoman Navarro, our former ED and council member, Phil Andrew at the time, have been working on these programs for years. And even following the first use of the program in 2018, we were able to make amendments to improve the program. And, I will just say, as someone who lives in the county, who was able to see the program used for the first time, and who which I'd say was fairly successful. I got to see just a difference in the way that the candidates were doing outreach in the county, right? There are parts of the county where a lot of times candidates would largely ignore it. It wasn't until the peak of GOTV where you'd hear them going into that area. We saw more intentional outreach to individuals of different ethnic backgrounds. And I think what was fun for us was, the amount of people who were reaching out, who were trying to navigate MD Chris, who wanted to understand the type of money that was coming in and powering candidates. So, I think the program has been largely successful here in the county, and, following 2019 and the input that candidates have provided, as well as the public, I think we've made some big improvements. I think the one other key piece here is that in 2019, we did pass a statewide bill that required local jurisdictions that had established programs to designate funding to create a role, either one or two roles to provide support in administering these programs. We know that Jared Demarinis, the candidacy and campaign finance director, just can't do it all as we get more and more of these programs up and running. And this is where Maurice Valentine comes in. Maurice is gonna be really leading the discussion today with my support. We are grateful to him for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us here today. I'm hoping that you all will, use him as a resource. He's here to answer questions for you and to provide support, keeping in mind that, again, this is a new position and that just as in 2018, we will likely be making improvements again. So with that, I can ramble on and on. I will pause there and pass it to Maurice, who is going to be leading the discussion today. Welcome, Maurice.
Thanks, Joanne. Hey, thank you for having me. And thank you all for spending a few minutes on your Friday evening to spend time with us. Let me see, kick this off. Can everyone see my screen? All right. All right. Hello, my name is Maurice Valentine, and I'm the Montgomery County Public Election Fund Liaison. I know I've been working with some of you, answering some of your questions already, and this is the first time putting a face to it. So I'll be talking to you tonight about this, the Public Election Fund, and let's go. Couple of key resources that you'll need to have when you're working with the election fund is the summary guide. That's like one of the key documents. If you don't have it now, you should have it. It gives you a guide. It pretty much gives you a guide to everything that you need to know about the program. There's also the county web program website, which is through finance. And then there's the new website, my website, which has the https://tinyurl.com/MoCo which is new for the MoCo Public Election Fund Liaison. Other resources out there, we got the 221 Public Election Fund Regulation. We got the Montgomery County Code, Council Bill 3120, and the county finance website. Not going to talk so much about this. Joanne covered it pretty well. And basically, I mean, the Public Election Fund has been going, well, Maryland approved it in 2013, 2014. Montgomery County kicked theirs off with Bill 16-14. There's been a couple amendments. The latest amendment, which happened in 2020, was Bill 31-20, which created my position, the Public Election Fund Liaison. The Public Election Fund's goals have been to encourage greater voter participation in county elections, increase opportunities for more residents to run for office, which creates diversity, reduce the influence of large contributions from businesses, political action groups, and other large organizations, and putting that influence more in the hands of the voters. Now, one thing we got to understand is that there's different roles with the Public Election Fund. So you have the Maryland State Board of Elections. Their role with the program are certifying candidates. They also operate the Maryland Campaign Reporting Information System, which we really know as MD-CRIS, and they assist in administering the public campaign financing system. Then you have the county's Director of Finance. They are the administrators of the Public Election Fund, and they do the distribution of the public contributions. The county council is responsible for appropriating funds for the Public Election Fund, as well as passing legislation to govern the program. You also have the Public Election Fund Committee, who does the recommending of funds and outreach. And you have myself, Maurice, responsible for assisting the public in answering questions regarding the election fund and conducting outreach and education, kind of like what we're doing right now. Now, where I call home as the liaison is in the Office of Consumer Protection. As you see, some of the responsibilities that the Office of Consumer Protection hold are they handle disputes between merchants and consumers. They enforce the county's consumer protection laws, license or regulate certain businesses, and now we do the Public Election Fund Liaison. And here's just a little information on the anonymous tip line website. So in case you figure you have a problem in this arena, you can go ahead and take care of it right away. Now, how do you work with me? The best thing, visit my website. It'll make me feel special. You can go to my website, spend time making it. I love it if you visit it. You can submit questions. Oh, and then on the website, you'll find links to other things like State Board of Elections, MD-CRIS, and a lot of other stuff with the Public Election Fund. You can submit me questions through my web form there. I love questions. Send them to me. I'll get them answered for you. And when I receive those questions, I do research. I research your questions. I talk them through if needed be through county finance, state board of elections, go through regulations, and I get you the answers that you need. And I get you those answers normally within 2 business days. Well, I would say most times it's within 1 business day. And I'm available to you throughout the process and even beyond the process. Currently, the overall fund stands at $5,020,000. We have 4 candidates are certified. We have 18 applicant candidates and have currently paid out $234,342 in matching contributions. So that tells you there's still lots of money out there. So if you're interested in running, there's funding out there, do it, feel free to apply. The positions that are available for the program, okay? It's the 1 county executive position. There's the 4 at-large county council member positions, as well as the used to be 5, now 7 district council members, which they're sorting out the way those districts are being distributed currently, but it also covers those positions as well. Now, what are candidates? Okay, we have explorer candidates, which are those candidates, well, it's the public as well. It's those candidates that aren't in the program, have questions about the program, and want to know more. All right. Do I really want to be a part of this program? Who knows? It may not fit. It doesn't fit all parties, all campaigns. You have applicant candidates. The applicant candidate actually went through, set up the MD Chris account, set up a publicly financed account, and filed their notice of intent. Now they're a part of the program. Certified candidates went through all the process of meeting contribution minimums, and they've been approved by state, and so that they can actually access the fund. But they don't necessarily have money. Participant candidates is when you start to receive the money. That means you're actually in a certified, you are actually certified, and you are in a contested election, and the funds are released. First steps to participate: register through MD Chris. Through MD Chris, you'll be able to file your notice of intent to participate. And 3, contact me. Just let me know that you're in there. It's not required, but it's helpful, and I assure you I will be helpful. Here's examples of the starting documents that you'll have and that you'll need to open up your public campaign account. You'll be able to do all of these through MD Chris when you sign up, and you can carry forth and do great things with your campaigns. Once you're approved, or once you are approved by State Board of Elections, they're going to send an email to all your committee members. That's the candidate, the chairperson, and treasurer. You'll get an email within 24 hours. You will log in. You will create your own personal password, your unique identifying password, and then you'll be able to log in from then on forward through MD Chris and make changes and reports. Now, what's your publicly funded campaign? All right. The account that you open up is only used for your publicly funded campaign account, or for your campaign. All right. It's for nothing else. If you had any accounts opened up prior, those must be closed or made inactive. You can start as soon as you file your notice of intent and basically do everything you need through MD Chris, you can start receiving qualifying contributions. Now let's talk contributions. And Joanne, have we had any questions at this stage? Anything about?
None specific to this section. I do see a question in the queue, but I think we can get to it later on.
All right, thank you. All right, let's dive into contributions. All right, we have qualifying contributions. Qualifying contributions are between $5 and $250. Must be towards one candidate during a 4-year election cycle. Max contribution by a candidate by any resident is $250. The only thing that can exceed that amount is through loans, candidate loans, and candidate spouse loans that can't be higher than $12,000 combined. All contributors for qualifying contributions must be county residents. They're made during the qualifying period. This qualifying period ends on 14 May 2022. Contributions must be acknowledged by a receipt, identify a contributor's name, residential address, signed by a contributor directly or by digital signature. And they cannot be in-kind contributions of property, goods, or services. Now, eligible contributions. Eligible contributions are a lot like qualifying contribution. The major difference is that the contributor does not have to be a county resident. Now, impermissible contributions. These are those that you cannot accept. You cannot accept. Nothing from any private contributions from a group, organization, no PACs, corporations, labor organizations, unions, no state or local central committees of any political parties, no LLCs or LLPs, no businesses at all. Contributions over $250 cannot be accepted. No loans. Cash contributions cannot be greater than $100. And no anonymous contributions. This is a rehash $12,000 aggregate combined loan from a candidate and a candidate spouse can be accepted. And you must report it in MD Chris under contributions. Anything outside of this spectrum is considered impermissible. Different contributions type and their public match eligibility. So when you talk candidate loans, in-kind contributions, other income, refund, rebate, those are not matched. So that means they are not qualifying. But eligible ones are the ones that you see in green, which are cash, check, credit card, electronic funds transfer. As long as they're done through the lens of a qualifying contribution, basically made by a resident, then they are publicly matched. Coordinated in-kind and transfers are impermissible and cannot be accepted. All right, receipts. So when we talk questions that I get, this has to be the number one of the top questions I get. And it makes perfect sense to ask the question, because before you start accepting all these receipts and contributions, you should know, does this pass the sniff test? And these are the parameters that let you know that it passes. That your receipt acknowledges the contribution through identifying the full name of the candidate for the county elective office. All right, the full name of the candidate has to have the contributor's name, their residential property address. It cannot be a PO box. And of course, it needs to be in Montgomery County if you're talking about qualified contributions. Must identify the amount of the contribution, the date of the contribution, their name and signature. And now there is a state board approved digital signature as well. And that signature is not just a checkbox or a mark saying, I sign this, is done. You know, it's a combination of affirming the transaction, affirming that the contribution was made to a certain candidate, and through all those things that you saw in the receipt example before, has their initials or name, and it's linked with the timestamp to show that it was done, done in concert with the contribution. All of those things combined is what makes a digital signature a digital signature. Okay, it's nothing else, nothing else.
I was going to say, before you go into qualifying, you do have 2 questions.
Okay.
Maybe I will start off. There's one in the chat, and you kind of touched on this regarding in-kind contributions. So the individual asked, how are meet and greets at people's homes or restaurants handled if the host or homeowner of the business would like to provide finger foods? What are the regulations around candidates on in-kind contributions and how that's handled as candidates loans in MD Chris? So basically, can you accept in-kind contributions? What is the max amount, and how do we report this in-kind contribution?
That would be it is an in-kind contribution, and you can accept them. They are not, you must have the dollar amount with them, and they must be within $5 and $250 in range. And yes, you can take those, but it can't be a coordinated in kind, which is coordinated is with like a PAC, or any type of election or any type of a party platform.
Yeah, and I will just add, I know that in kind,
and they must be reported in MD Chris. It must be reported.
And there is one more. I know there's a lot of questions in that one question, so I think we'll get back to some of the other pieces. But Maurice is saying $250 in-kind contribution limit. You are reporting that, and obviously we want to food at an in-kind. Yes, so it is considered and maybe this is Maurice, if a resident is hosting you for a house party, which is what we encourage, and the host is providing food, snacks, and all of that, how should they handle that?
And it has to have listen, that's something where, the administration would, the county finance would make the ruling on that. So it is not something where I can't tell you that that specific scenario, what's the right or wrong with that. But I must say that it has to be something where there's a price associated with it. Mm-hmm. And it must be specifically annotated, whatever that price is.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we got one last one, but you can finish your thought. Sorry.
But that's how the in-kind is treated. It must have a price associated with it.
Yeah, and I know Marilyn is just asking, can the receipt, I guess this is a receipt for a purchase or an in-kind contribution, can it be in the form of a self-addressed return envelope, typically sent out with fundraising letters? So I guess, Marilyn, if you're saying receipt, are you saying proof of an individual's, proof that an individual resides in the county? Like, is that what you mean when you're saying receipt? So the information that you would typically collect from a contributor, and if you want to follow up, Marilyn, maybe we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Oh yes, donation receipt.
So that's pretty specific. For me, it's pretty black and white. It has to be, of course, it has to be associated with a time. It has to be an amount, who's being contributed to. As far as like the way you manage that, the advice that I give you is that, or I don't give you like campaign advice on how to operate your campaign and how to actually go about doing the receipts. For our purposes, it's just that it meets those parameters for a receipt. Of course, if you have a receipt that you would like to submit, please submit it, lay out the scenario. We can discuss it with the county finance, the state board of election, and then we'll get back with you for that and give you the appropriate answer. All right. All right. So moving on. So how do you know when you're ready to qualify? So you have all your receipts, for all qualifying contributions, all right? You have your declaration, your notice of intent. You've set up your account in MD Chris. You have all your campaign finance reports submitted, okay, which list all these niceties right here. Your qualifying contributions, eligible contributions and loans received, all the expenditures made, outstanding obligations during that qualifying period, all receipts associated with each contribution expenditure. And you've done your certificate of candidacy for a covered office, okay? All of those things must be complete before you can be certified. Key things, the deadline for filing your certificate of candidacy is February 22nd of 2022. The deadline for filing your notice of intent is 15 April 2022. And both of these must be done prior to. And the certificate of candidacy is done in person at the County Board of Elections. So those are things you got to, before you certify, all this must be done. Now, what is a qualifying period? So beginning the 1st of January, following the election and ending 45 days before the primary election is the qualifying period. That's the time that you have to submit receipts to the board, or submit receipts to become certified and to get matching funds. Now, what are the minimum requirements to be certified? When you talk district council members, you're talking 125 contributions with a minimum aggregate of $10,000. For at-large council members, it's 250, and at $20,000 minimum, and 500 contributions at the 40,000 aggregate for county executive. Now, when you're talking, what is meant by contributions here is a contributor, okay? It's not, let's say if I donate, yesterday I donated $50 and today I donated $50 to your campaigns. That's not two qualifying contributions of $50. That is one qualifying contribution of $100 because it's the aggregate of me as the contributor. Your certification windows. These are the magic 10 days. So after you've filed to certify, you have 10 business days before you get a response to let you know if you're certified or not. If you don't get certified, you have 10 days, a 10-day curing period to fix your submissions so that you can meet all the requirements to be certified. Outside of that, you're on your own. Once you get certified for the primary, you do not have to get recertified for the general election. Let's talk filing and reporting schedule. Look, here I just included a copy of all the reports that are filed by a campaign. And this, of course, you check with State Board of Elections and you can get an update. I don't anticipate anything changing, but this is what it is as of today. All right. So you can submit for contributions on the first and third Tuesday of each month. All right. Those are just the days that you can do your report. You can file your reports the first and third Tuesday. They're all optional. There's no late filing or anything. If you don't get it in on the first or third Tuesday, wait for the next month. Except for those mandatory reports. All right. There are some mandatory reports. But some report you have for matching funds, first and third Tuesdays. Everything is done through MD Chris, and you have to 11:59 p.m. on that filing date. And of course, you'll get an email sent to you letting you know that your submission has been made. As far as distributions go, make sure that that State Board of Elections and the Department of Finance has your banking account number, your bank routing number, and campaign employer identification number, because you don't want any delays. I'm sure you don't want any delays once you're getting your funds, because you have important things to do with your campaigns. Distribution period, 365 days before the primary election and 30 days after the general election. So this year's distribution period began on June 28th and ends December 8th of next year. Distribution requests are submitted on first and third Tuesdays of every month. You can expect after you've done your district, after you've submitted for your matching funds, you can get distributions within 3 business days after being notified from the board, or after the board notifies the director, because the director has to get you paid. So let's talk the distribution table and how matching funds, the different matching funds. So for county executive, it's 6-to-1 match for the first $50. And as you see, everything matches up to the first $150. And of course, those ratios change. And the max for each is different. County executive, you can get a max contribution from the public at $750,000, $250,000 for at-large council members, and district gets $125,000. So how would that work? So as you see, you can have a total of $250 contribution from any individual. All right, contributor A gives 150, contributor B gives 250. And this is both for a council office position, so the match is exactly the same of 4, 3, 2. And you see they get the total match of the exact same of $450. The only difference is that there'll be an extra $100 in the account for contributor B, but that $100 is just isn't matched. So max public contribution for primary is separately calculated from the general. All right. So once you win a nomination, after receiving county matching funds up to the max during a primary, you may continue to receive matching funds from the county up to the maximum amount during a contested general election for the additional qualifying contributions received. All right. For the additional qualifying contributions received. I just want to make sure I said that again. What is a contested election? It's an election that you can lose. It's, there's fewer seats, like in musical chairs, there's fewer seats than participants. If you want to we have certified candidates who are a certified candidate that is certified, but does not receive a matching fund because they're currently not in a contested election. Expenditures. You're only able to spend funds on expenses that are directly related to election campaign activities and expenses incurred during this specific time period for either the primary or the general election. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because that is what you can spend it on, and you directly relate it to election campaign activities. So what you can't spend your money on, you can't use it for personal use or expenses relating to holding office. You can't use it to pay a personal endorsement, and you can't pay your late filing fees. As a publicly financed candidate, you may not make transfers to candidates for any elective office. You may not make transfers to any other campaign finance entity, including central committees, nor can you receive transfers from any other campaign finance entity, including central committees. You cannot be a member of a slate in any election. You can withdraw from the program. Okay. If you choose to withdraw, you may, if you opt out of public election fund program at any time before receiving a contribution, then it's easy. It's easy. If you receive distributions from the fund and then you later withdraw from the program for whatever reason, you must return all public election fund contribution amounts, including interest on the returned amount that was received during the election cycle. And that interest is computed using the prime lending rate published by the Federal Reserve. Now let's talk surplus. All unspent funds remaining in the certified candidate's publicly funded campaign account, all unspent funds remaining in the certified candidate's publicly funded campaign account must be returned to the public election fund at the end of the candidate's contested campaign. Candidates who win a contested primary election and continue to a contested general election may retain the unspent funds and continue to receive eligible contributions up to the general election for the covered office for which they are certified. So within 90 days of the county board certifying the results of the general election, and that's the key word, is certifying the results, because, you know, if you get things where you have a runoff campaign, that's something different. You know, that's a different certification date. You have 90 days where you must repay to the fund any unspent money in your publicly funded campaign account. If a candidate does not repay the unspent money to the fund as specified, delinquency accrues interest charges from the date the county board certified the results of the general election. I don't think this has ever been a problem, so it's easy. Here's some additional resources for you. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to visit my website, the tiny URL website with Moco Peffel, as well as submit questions to my tinyurl.com Peffel web form. Please send questions. I must tell you, it's an honor for me to serve you. It's an honor for me to serve anyone that's willing to step up and answer the call to service. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Maurice. Thank you, thank you. And reminder to everyone that this is meant to be a brief overview. We didn't want to get into every single detail, but I see that there are a lot of questions in the chat. So maybe we'll start there. And Maurice, I don't know if you're able to, because there was a slide, I did not see it. I think there was a slide where you showed a sample, you showed a matching model. I want to say it was $51 on there. I don't know if it was $51 because folks are trying to figure out what $51, what the match would be there. And I don't know if that was an example you gave.
Yeah, right here,
Okay.
with this example right here.
Yes.
What that's saying is, so you got dollars 1 through 50 are matched. So starting at the very next dollar of 51 through 100, there's a 3. It's matched by 3.
So does that answer everyone's? So the $50, everyone. So your first $50 is matched at a rate of 4 to 1. Yes. So that would mean that you are getting $250 there, right? Remember, you are for folks who are, because it looks like folks are doing math in the chat.
No, you're getting 200 for that.
200 match in addition to your 50. Am I saying that? Yeah. So your total, because they're trying to figure out the total. So it'd be 250, and then the $1, the additional $1 you're saying is matched at a 3 to 1. So that's the $3 and the 1. So cumulative, the total would be 254. That's including their match, if I'm explaining that correctly.
So the first 4 is $200. So the first $50 is matched at, so for every $50, it's 4 times matched. So that's for dollar number 1 through 50. So $50 is matched 4 times over at 200.
Yep.
Now starting at the $1.51 up to 100, it's matched at 3 times over. So that next $50 is matched at 150. And the last is matched at 2. So these last two $50 increments is $100.
Does everyone, I think folks were, okay, it looks like everyone gets it, but I think that's a great question, because you'd be surprised how a lot of times, even for the public, as they are donating, they are not, correctly calculating what the match is. And I think the one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of times people are going to be making small donations to you at a time. So, you might be thinking, why would I get $51? You might, because people are giving little bits. Yeah, which is the point here. I know that there was a question in the chat from Maryland. So can you talk about tickets to various events if you're attending an event as a candidate? I'm assuming that expense is allowed.
So if it's directly related to as campaign activities, then the answer is yes, as a candidate, because that's an allowed expense. So we'll get it over. Oh, it was on this. Oh no, this. Mm-hmm. So yes, you can, for if it's not this slide, but if here it is right here. If it's directly associated with your publicly funded, or if you're directly an election campaign activity, meaning it's because you're a candidate, then yes, it's allowable expenditure as per this.
And just so as a follow-up, because I know this has come up, so what type of an event can you not use public dollars to attend? Or to buy a ticket to attend?
Well, if you can't receive money from it, I'm pretty sure you can't spend money towards it. So I know, I think you're hitting a question about PAC events and stuff like that, and that's a no. You cannot. That's not considered. That's a coordinated event. That's public. That's a PAC, and no, you cannot expend on that.
Thank you, thank you. And I know that there are a few, I think the in-kind contribution piece can get confusing. You know, there's a scenario here where, you know, let's say it's a event, a house party, whatever type of event it is, but there are multiple candidates, multiple publicly financed candidates there. You know, how do you attribute food donations as in-kind, which is where it can get difficult.
I do not offer campaign advice.
Yes.
I do not offer legal advice.
So
I can give you advice. Now, those are some unique scenarios, and for things like that, that's something where please feel free on those hypotheticals like that. Submit it to me in the question through my web form. I will get with the director of finance. I will get with the State Board of Elections, and we will hash that out. But when you get to things like that, please just submit it in the web form and we can get it figured out for you.
Yeah. And I see a few like that. So we will make sure, you know, we're following up on clarity around the in-kind, candidate coordination, all of that. Yeah, we'll get back to it. Now, one additional question that I didn't get to before, if someone wants to volunteer and donate their consulting time, does that get put into the system as an in-kind contribution, and are there caps?
That is a very good question. And I will submit that web form for you, that question web form for you. And I will try to get an answer to whoever. Well, feel free to send it to my web form, because that's a very good question. And
yeah,
I'll discuss and try to get that answered for you.
Yeah, and from my understanding, at least from code, you know, in-kind includes services. So if I am consulting, I am providing my expertise as a, you know, to you. So I'm not knocking doors for you or anything, but I am good at campaign strategy. I don't know, right? And I am developing that is an in-kind contribution. There would in theory be a max to that because it is a service. It is not the same as me phone banking, text banking, and so forth with you. But I think the in-kind gets confusing. So I think the one clarity here is that there needs to be, you know, some additional information. And I think Maurice will look into that. Are there any other, I'm seeing a lot of, so I can answer this one because this is where Maurice as OCP would not. So there are questions regarding, you know, candidates and being unable to publicize their campaign activities within affiliated parties. So the Dem Party, Republican Party, do you know when the council will update the PEF, the Public Election Fund Code? So this is where I will say, I know that there has been discussions and concerns. Even us internally have been having conversations about how, you know, to ensure that a program like this is truly equitable, right? We acknowledge the difficulty and hurdles that a candidate might face, or I shouldn't say hurdles, but disadvantages that one might face having to use their own dollars. Now, whether or not a change will be made while the program is in use really comes back to the council. So I think this is where you all would have to reach out to the council. But I would just say that this isn't something that the coalition, so Fair Elections Maryland, is not actively working on that right now out of concerns about making changes during a program use, but it is something, you know, I think enough folks have flagged the issue that we are trying to see if we can make improvements statewide as we move forward with these programs. So I know that that is a vague, very vague answer. So I say all that to say it really is a conversation. You might have to reach out to the council there, but I would say as advocates, we aren't actively working to make changes to the program while the program is in use. I thought in 2018 ads and event tickets, yeah. So those changes, those amendments were not made. Are such funds for campaign committees to attend a campaign event acceptable? So again, this is where are using funds. So this is where, you know, to Maurice's point, if you cannot receive contributions from that entity, you cannot make expenditures. Is that correct, Maurice?
Correct. Like if you're talking like a public, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, the PACs and all that. Yeah, no.
Yep. Any other questions? Oh, sorry. I think we have understood. Okay. Any other questions? Now would be the time while you've got Maurice live. Okay, so I hope today's session was helpful to you all. Again, I am grateful to Maurice for taking time out of his busy day where he could be finally resting right now to walk through this. We're hoping to host multiple sessions like these. You know, we understand that as candidates, especially if you're opting into the program for the first time, that it can be confusing, and that even after you've learned it and understood how to use it, there are hurdles to actually communicating this to the public as well. So there will be additional sessions. We're hoping to partner with Rethink on messaging tips on how you could talk about this in the field. And we have a few partners that will be joining us for basics on, you know, fundraising and so forth. Maurice, there was one question for you. People wanted to know whether or not you would make these slides available. I'm going to send the recording, but.
Yes, I will make the slides available. I will definitely post it to my website. So yeah, please, you know, I'll get these posted within the next week to my website. You can visit my website, and then and you'll be able to review them there.
Okay. Well, if that is it,
I can send them to you as well, Joanne. I can do that as well.
Yes.
I can email them to you as well.
Yes, sorry. I was checking for more questions. Yes. So I will send follow-up information in the morning. And hopefully I caught everything in the chat. But good luck in the field, everyone. We are excited to see so many candidates opting in. You know, I would say if you know, Howard County is using their program at the same time as well for the first time. So maybe there are ways that you can have conversations with other candidates around what strategies they're using, you know, ways that you can be creative in outreach here. But we will be following closely and wish you all the best of luck. Good evening. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. I was going to say, don't leave that, Maurice.